Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. Today, we begin a month of scrapbooking about our misadventures with the most famous vampire of them all, Dracula. All Drac-tober long, we'll be talking about media focused on Count Dracula, beginning with his original appearance in the novel Dracula, written by Bram Stoker. I'm Tyler.
Blah, I'm David.
Blah, and I'm Marilee.
But before we climb lizard-like down the exterior of Glitterjaw HQ, I want to say hello and check in with my co-hosts to find out how things are going for them. In a landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer, what's making y'all scared or what's making you feel prepared?
This week, I'm feeling a little scared.
Oh, buddy.
I mean, you know, it's the time of the year to feel scared, first and foremost of all, I will just say. Marilee's decorations have taken on a whole new form. Can't even look at her Zoom window. It's just so incredibly Halloween-y. But I'm scared because I had a trip that I was going to take this weekend that I was very, very excited about. I got some of that Facebook violated your privacy money, which I guess ended up valued at $37. And I turned that in to some last minute flights up to the United Kingdom, and I've had to cancel them because of stuff going on here. So I will not be able to go on a surprise Jet2 holiday. It was not actually Jet2, but it, you know, for
Yeah, the meme, we get it.
For 19 euros up there and 25 euros back, it was a pretty screaming last minute deal. And that was the only reason I was going to do it. So now, unfortunately, I will not be able to go. But I'm you know what? I have a whole weekend now to myself. So maybe I'll play video games. Maybe I'll do something good with it. Maybe I can turn this scared into feeling prepared. Just feeling all out of sorts because my plans changed. I don't like when plans change unless they're canceled. Those are okay changes.
Yeah,
that's
plans
so true.
changing and plans canceling are such completely different vibes.
Yeah.
I
Even
hate
though
a plan change. Canceling, perfect.
Yeah, you can always cancel plans with me. That's just that. That's the true confession of my love for others in this world. You can always cancel plans with me.
I'm so happy that we are all of the same mind with that one because I love the thrill of having plans be canceled on me. It's so nice. I just get to I don't have to do anything. Nothing is required of me anymore. I am just going to sit now and be my own person.
Yeah, I wish that my changing circumstances could relieve other people in the world, but I was going up for a thing that I think is still happening, or I know is still happening. So no benefit to other people in the world that I am not going.
Alas.
Could you imagine though if I was the only person on the flight and now there's a flight crew who is like, thank God we don't have to take this damn flight. It would just made their days. Now I feel more prepared because I could have made a flight crew's day.
Now they can have a Jet2 holiday.
They could have a Jet2 holiday. I did not save 50 pounds on a family for 4 or whichever it is, as I do not deal in pounds.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny.
But you know where there are things in pounds? Puppies. I don't know where I was going with this. It all fell apart as I was doing it. David, cut this out.
David, keep it in.
Keep it in.
We don't know how to feel about that one.
Yeah, I don't feel good about it. Tyler, are you feeling scared or prepared this week?
I am feeling a little scared.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's nothing too serious or anything, but instead, it's that experience that I think we all have experienced, which is the thing that you look back on nostalgically. When you try it again in the present day, it does not hit quite the same.
The worst.
So I have Xbox Game Pass, and they have a lot of my old favorite games that I played back on my Xbox 360 in high school, which is predominantly the Fable games, Mass Effect, and then Halo. Halo being the big one. Okay. So I played a little bit of Halo a couple days ago, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling this. I'm playing Combat Evolved. The handgun still feels good. Great pistol. And then I switched over to Fable 2. And I'm like, okay, this is all right. And then the more I was playing, the more I felt myself fighting with the controls. It's like the targets were everywhere, but there wasn't really good like auto targeting because that just wasn't really a thing at the time. And I'm just like, wow, that was like one of my favorite games ever when I was in high school, and now it doesn't hit the same.
Yeah.
And it's a little sad, but at the same time, I'm just like, well, oh well. At least nothing happened to my memories, so I still feel good about those.
Yeah,
it's just scary to have to. Now you have to kind of like filter through the things to see like, does this withstand the test of time from my nostalgia, or has it like always been shit? Or is it still good? Like I'm pleasantly surprised with Halo so far, but I'm still pretty early in. So we'll see how things go.
Okay. Yeah. So this is very similar to a story that I have, a very true, very embarrassing story about me, which was when they announced that they were going to make a remake of the Resident Evil 4 game. I was really anti that. I said to a lot of people, what is the point of making a remake of a game that you could buy still right now on the system that you are remaking it for, because they're making a PS4 version of the RE4 make as well, which you could just get the regular RE4 on. And then I started to play RE4 for the first time in a decade. It was like, oh god, this is shit controls. This plays so nasty. And so I had to issue a public apology because I felt so bad for being like saying so many mean things about them doing an RE4 make before they remade Code Veronica, which I still think was the wrong move, actually. But
though, that control thing's real. We get into a place where we evolve the way that we think about game design, and that trickles down to players in the way in which you experience games. And there are not a ton of games that the design scale can really maintain. I think about controllers that had 2 joysticks, and yet you use the shoulder buttons to control the camera. Just insanity. Why would you do that? We've had a second joystick be the camera for years now. But there was a time in which nobody understood that. Nobody knew how cameras worked. The 3D environment was brand new. I think for me, one of the like most classic examples of this is that when Grim Fandango was first released, it was under tank controls, in which your character always moves forward and you have to tell them to move left. And that's not how people use controllers anymore. Your controller is assumed to be a 360-degree experience. And when they remade Grim Fandango, it was an option to turn off or turn on tank controls to experience the old game. And no one should ever do that, except that there is a trophy for doing that. So I had to play the game in tank controls like I did the first time I played it.
Have you played the Tomb Raider remakes / revival thingies?
I have not. I have never played a Tomb Raider. I've never played a Tomb Raider. I shot some tigers, mountain lions, something.
Tigers.
Yeah, tigers from the first game, and I was like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah,
I ran around the mansion. I did have that millennial experience. Like, come on.
I feel like all game millennials have very fond memories of running around the mansion. Like, I think that's where we spent the majority of our time, was running around Lara's mansion in her cute little like gym outfit and locking her butler in the freezer.
Okay. I'm familiar with people doing this. I didn't do this because I'm not a sociopath, but go on.
Well, I did. It was funny. But anyway, Tomb Raider has similar tank controls, and in the remakes, you can either play it with the tank controls or you could play it in like a 3D control. Very difficult. I actually had a much easier time just trying to channel my childhood self and just remember, like, okay, I'm using the D-pad to move. I'm using the shoulder buttons to move the camera around. I got to hold R1 to make sure Lara doesn't fall off the cliffside. Anyway, that's really enough about Tomb Raider. Marilee, how are you feeling?
I feel like I should be scared out of solidarity, but here's the thing. This is October. I have never been more powerful. I am so prepared. Everything is, well, maybe not going my way, but, you know, there's that magic sparkle of Halloween aura around everything, which is nice. I've put up my big inflatable pumpkin outside already because it's October now, and now I can start decorating and going insane officially outside. And I picked up this incredible, almost like slightly larger than life-size skull that's like a pearlescent color that I'm just moving around the house just for fun. I love Halloween, guys. I love Halloween. I've got this
Oh, it's so
root beer
good.
milkshake. Everything's going my way.
A root beer milkshake?
Mhm.
Isn't that just what makes a root beer milkshake different than? This sounds like I'm asking her a riddle. Like, in order to podcast with me, answer me these riddles 3. What makes a root beer milkshake different than a root beer float?
It's very similar to your ideal root beer float in that except like there's no separation of the root beer and the ice cream. It's all just together.
You're
Yeah.
right. It's the ideal form. I guess I've never really thought about a root beer float as actually having the ice cream float, but I know that is the namesake. But to me, it should just be like melty ice cream in root beer.
Yeah, so honestly, it's very similar to that. I'm pretty sure they just, again, I am not a scientist, but I feel like they just took like they took root beer syrup and they put it in vanilla ice cream and made the milkshake that way. I don't care. It's delicious. Everything's good. It's Halloween. We're here. It's my time. I love it.
I do love Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Things are better when it's Halloween.
I have reverse seasonal affective disorder. I swear to God. Where
Same.
Yeah, so as soon as it starts to get cooler out, I start living my best life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
I'm
cool,
so
but
ready.
the idea of cool is happening.
Right.
Would you believe that I'm still thinking about root beer floats? Like, is an affogato a root beer float?
No, it's a coffee float.
Yeah, because there's no root beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but spiritually, they feel very similar.
Have you ever had a Coke float?
Yes, I have had a Coke float.
It's delicious.
That is also very similar. Well, it's not as good as a root beer float, but
few things are.
The best thing I've ever had was a cream soda float, because it was just like cream explosion.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a cream soda girly.
Is this the time when I have to announce that I do not care for Dr. Pepper or root beer in general?
Okay. Well, okay.
Podcast over.
No,
Bye.
I was about to transition into the topic at hand, but I can't allow the conflation of root beer and Dr. Pepper in this space.
Are they different?
You cannot like each of them, which is fine. That I have no problem with.
I have a problem with both of those, actually, but
they are functionally very different drinks.
Yes, very insanely different. Do you know anything about Dr. Pepper? Have you tried it before, or like how do you think it's similar to root beer?
I thought for a second you were just gonna stop it. Do you know anything?
Do you know anything, Tyler? Dr. Pepper, of course, is flavored with 23 flavors. You know what else is flavored with 23 flavors? The garlic in Lucy's room, which is imported and highly fancy. Yes, that's right. Today we are discussing 1897's Dracula, written by Bram Stoker. During his life, Stoker was more commonly known for his work in the theater. While critical reviews for Dracula upon its release were largely positive, Stoker achieved no financial success from the novel.
The story is written in an epistolary style, meaning that the narrative is told through journal entries, letters, newspaper articles, and other memoranda. This creates an aura of mystery about the identity of Dracula. It is only by recording their experiences and eventually compiling them that the characters can confront the Count.
For our first ever 2-part fear-coded episodes, we will be covering Dracula in 2 sections. First, we'll cover chapters 1 through chapter 12. In the next episode, we'll cover the remainder of the novel. So before we get started, I have to ask, what are your relationships with Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Well, let's just get this out of the way for the whole month. This is my first time touching the novel. I have seen no film with the name Dracula in the title. And of the media we are covering, I have only watched the final entry of the month prior to us engaging in this activity. And that was a real wild time. So this is all brand new to me. It was a real delight. I will once we all share our experiences. I have had a wild first half of this book as well.
Okay, no, I think we got to dig into this now, I feel like, because
Oh,
I'm desperate to know, what did you think the novel was going to be like, and how is that different from your experience of it?
of course, the interesting thing is, and as we will go through the beat by beat, many of the major plot beats and characters are known to me despite having no interaction with this world. I guess I should say I said I haven't watched anything with Dracula in the title. I have watched, of course, the titular Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman.
Of course.
Everybody's watched that.
So when Van Helsing showed up in this, and I was like, God, why aren't you Hugh Jackman? Like at least be Wolverine for a second. No, I had a lot of fun with it, but it was kind of like, oh yeah, it's this guy. I know I've said these words a lot about like Game of Thrones and European history, but as someone who took European history, I will tell you, there is a joy to taking a historical class and you are reading something and it's like, and then this little guy named Napoleon walked in and you're like, oh shit, like this motherfucker, something's going to happen here. And that's how this was like all of a sudden Seward is like, oh yeah, I've got this patient named Renfield. And I was like, yeah, you do. I know this motherfucker's going to be around for a little while. But I'll say the novel doesn't do that thing where it introduces inconsequential things. There's not a lot that gets introduced that we don't do a bunch with. And so that it makes sense that this was very popular because it is a well-written book. There were a couple times when I had a little bit of trouble focusing on the novel. So I did deploy the audiobook to narrate to me while I read the physical book, the electronic book.
Oh, I love that. Tyler, what about you?
So I started reading Dracula when I was in my senior year of high school. I had to take a study hall class and it was in the library, and I would just go on Wikipedia articles and just read about them during that time because, what else am I supposed to do during study hall when they won't let me talk? So I actually did start reading Dracula on Wikipedia because the whole text, like the whole novel is on Wikipedia since it's in the public domain. Wild indeed. So I didn't finish, but I did end up taking a class. My very first class actually in grad school was about like introducing us to like thinking about texts in like a critical fashion and at the graduate level. And my professor, Dr. Jackson, hi, Dr. Jackson, you don't listen to this podcast, but maybe you'll listen to this one. She taught about Dracula. So we spent the entire semester learning about how to take apart, like books and think about them critically and talk about them critically and write about them. And Dracula was our subject. So I think I'm a Dracula expert at this point. I was going through my paper that I wrote for the end of that semester, and I was like, damn. This was really good. I was cooking with this one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to read that actually.
Ooh, okay. Well, you're going to get a preview of it because a lot of the stuff in here is based off of my own thoughts and critical analysis.
Ooh.
Tyler admits to plagiarizing himself live on the podcast.
Oops. Good thing this isn't an academic program, so no punishments for me. Marilee, tell us about your experience with Dracula.
So I read Dracula the first time when I was in middle school. I was in Italy with some of my mom's relatives, and it was such a wild time. And we were driving around the countryside, and in one of the very few English language bookstores, they had a copy of Dracula, which I got. And so it's actually a really fond memory of me sitting in like the back of this very full bus, like driving around with people that I was ignoring, reading Dracula. I loved that. I've also always felt very fondly about that. This is also when I read Frankenstein for the first time, and also Clan of the Cave Bears, which I should not have read as a middle schooler. Somebody should have not done that, but it was one of the only books that I had access to. So,
Marilee, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of question mark whether you should have been reading this in middle school, but I'm glad that you found it to be a good experience. I think mostly from a I could not have read this in middle school. I was reading like Dean Koontz. Like there's there was no way I had the vocabulary necessary to make it through this novel.
I was a
in
pleasure
middle
to have in
school.
Oh, same.
class, and I was I was in my advanced
That's-
reading program. I could do
That
it.
just means you were queer.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I also tried to read Dracula daily last year. I ended up giving up right around the time that Jonathan left the castle. I just got too busy, couldn't do it. But I'm actually following along. There was a new update today even that I very eagerly, before I did anything else, did that, and I'm really proud of myself for hanging on. Does that mean that I'm reading Dracula twice this year and 2 times at the same time? Yes, it does. Is that insane? Yes. Am I doing it? Yes.
Hey, it means you're going to be
Okay.
really, really prepared for today
Yeah.
and next week.
It's true.
Well, great news. I recently procured a asylum, and I will tell everyone about it as a sign of my virility. So you're welcome to be admitted to my asylum. And isn't it nice that I own an asylum
Yes.
Indeed.
or run one? I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, ooh, he's so dreamy. He has his own asylum.
Yeah, right? It's insane. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that.
She was just like pastel goth. Lucy is just pastel goth.
I love Lucy
I love
so
that.
much.
I love that.
In case you are not aware, Dracula Daily is a basically book club on the internet where you are reading Dracula in order of events because every entry is dated. In the book, it is not organized that way. They're kind of at several points I will point out how things happen in a different order in Dracula Daily, but like you hear things a certain dramatic order way in the regular book. In Dracula Daily, again, it's all chronological order, which is great. It's a very different experience.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into talking about the themes behind this like very popular novel. So our very first one is queerness and abjection of the vampire. So Stoker's Count Dracula is a monster, plain and simple. He's associated intricately with the physical, a specter of degenerative features that mingles the masculine and the feminine. Dracula's body is powerful yet cold as death, and his red lips conjure images we would associate with a passionate femininity. To the rigid Victorian mind, such mingling means that the boundaries are flexible. When Harker experiences revulsion and fear at the sight of Dracula crawling down the walls of the castle, it's the culmination of the ultimate Victorian fear. The subversive and degenerate are real, and they're coming to get you.
Now, for all intents and purposes, the only, not to spoiler alert our beat by beat and a 200-year-old novel, but our only real encounter with Count Dracula is the Harker sequences. Everything else is sort of, I guess he's on the ship. We get plenty of proof of that. But like the second half of the first half of the book is all sort of like this other stuff that's around this like tragedy of Dracula. And that was a big surprise for me because he was such the book is named after him, and B, the Harker sequences are so stark with this monstrous man, but also like campy queen who just wants to have you stay around for a little while.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean I would say that's pretty like legitimate reading to have from that. So I am a big fan of thinking of Dracula as being kind of like this mingling of very different ideas. So he's a man, but he has feminine features. He's a human, but he can crawl lizard-like down walls. Obviously, like a man who is presenting feminine features, that is not a issue in the modern day for viewers like you or listeners like you, me, and everyone else. But like to the Victorian mind, such a thing really would be like horrifying. And I kind of like to think about that in terms of like the proto-queerness of it all. Like we didn't invent homosexuality until like the 1960s, really. Like you would commit sodomy, like you would have anal sex with a man, or just have intimate relations with a man, or just a person of the same sex, but it was not really considered like that is who you are now. Like that was not an identifying feature of who you are. And so we can't really say like, oh, well, Dracula is obviously meant to be like a queer pansexual or something like that. Instead, it's just because they didn't have that kind of terminology, they didn't have that kind of framework, so it's not really appropriate for us to like try and classify people according to that. But I still think that like Stoker had his own sort of intimate relations with men of the same sex. There's a very famous letter with Walt Whitman where they talked about having a very intense and emotional friendship. And it's even included in the academic text that I used in grad school. And I think it's interesting to kind of see like there is room for intimacy in Stoker's life with people of the same sex. But then in the novel, it is played up as something horrifying because going back to David's point that he's just kind of like a campy queen at the same time as being this horrible monster, I think that makes him very interesting. And it's part of why like the novel is still so popular today, why Dracula Daily keeps on going, and why we're fascinated with the character of Dracula in all his different iterations.
Yeah. Reading Stoker as queer really changed, deepened, and enhanced my appreciation and experience with Dracula. Because, like, reading about his life and how traumatized he was by Dorian Gray author Oscar Wilde's like trial where he was convicted of homosexuality and then like really rejected lots of parts of himself because of the ways that society rejected Oscar Wilde and then being able to like look in his texts and see that anxiety and fear reflected, it just means so much to me. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, and I think it also speaks to the idea that there's something that when we think about when Wilde's trial was and when his hardship sort of started and when this probably was getting written, there's a little bit of stuff that lines up with that might also speak to the nature of designing a character who even today has a queer-coded reading and that needing to be monstrous or that needing to be hidden. I did read some of Stoker's like later comments about like censorship and being in support of censorship. It did seem to be this huge swing after the entire incident that happened with Wilde, and since they of course were contemporaries, it I don't know that it makes sense. That feels almost too forgiving of Stoker. I understand why it happened. I think that like we all exhibit bravery in our different ways, and I think he did the best that he could in that world. I certainly wish he could have done more. Whitman was able to, but Whitman was in America and we had problems, but they were an ocean of difference, these two countries, and how they've dealt with what we now think of as queer identity in the, what is this, late 19th century? Is that right? I always have trouble with fucking
late 19th century.
Just should call it up to the actual numbers, not the numbers after.
Yeah.
Who made this? Who made this situation?
Hey, we're in the 21st century, and like, you guys think we're gonna get to 2100?
Yeah. And where's my flying car? Where's my flying car?
Come on now. We had jetpacks in the 80s. We deserve a flying car.
Well, let's instead talk about angels and houses, which they had in the Victorian era. So this next theme is called The Angel in the House. Lucy Westenra, the pure and virginal friend of Mina Murray, is romantically pursued by multiple men. But rather than being criticized, as one might expect from a Victorian novel, everyone truly loves Lucy. Even her suitors get along after she accepts Arthur Holmwood's proposal. This is because Lucy is something called the angel in the house, which is a concept popular in Victorian literature. Lucy is a model woman. She's well-behaved, chaste, and beautiful. Mina, who is a constant note-taker, discusses how she feels like Lucy is this ideal woman, as opposed to another concept called the New Woman, which was taking shape in Victorian society. When Lucy begins to perish from her blood loss and just, overall Dracula attacks, her body alternates between corrupt and pure. Which begs the question, if Dracula can corrupt and destroy the angel in the house, what can't he do?
I see this is such a key theme to pull out, and Tyler did such a beautiful job of like putting this into words. And just one of the reasons why I feel like most adaptations really fail Lucy in particular. Like a lot of characters in this book never see the light of day as themselves in adaptations ever again. And Lucy is definitely one of them. And because like the mistake that again, I say mistake, it's an adaptation. They are adapting the source material, whatever. I'm not going to get into that debate right now, but I am going to say that a lot of the time they will make Lucy like a lusty foil to chaste Mina, and that's simply not what is happening in the novel.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely feel like that was surprising when I originally read the novel, because I thought about exactly what Marilee said. Like, the Bram Stoker's Dracula movie from the early 90s with Gary Oldman and Keanu Reeves doing a very questionable English accent, I think really kind of focuses on what Marilee described. Because I do remember Lucy being kind of like, she's a little bit more like lascivious and like more passionate. And then like her death shroud is this beautiful, like almost like a royal gown. But she is definitely looking like very lusty in it. And I think that would have been more shocking if we had stuck with like the book's original point of view, which is like this idea that Lucy, and this is also kind of important too for the sake of the novel and trying to get into the Victorian mindset, Lucy is meant to be like this kind of perfect woman. And for Dracula, who is, you know, proto-queer, he's a lot of liminal things pushed together into one, just all sorts of contradictions. He comes into this society which has so many boundaries up, and he's able to shake something that is like so powerful and so beloved.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would really amp up the terror, and I think also still works today, honestly, because especially when you think about like the people who really encourage like tradwife behavior and just like, oh, our women have to be so pure and virginal, and they got to work in the house barefoot and pregnant, you know, that kind of bullshit. Like it makes me appreciate Dracula more because he's kind of tearing down that status quo, and I feel like that still needs to kind of be done today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you say this angel in the house thing, and this is pretty. So again, not a lot of Victorian literature in my life, period. So if this is a pretty standard thing, then I would also read in the first sequence the women who Harker encounters as a subversion then of this trope, which is a horror technique.
Definitely.
So not only are you meeting them and they're vampires, which is scary to begin with, but also like right before encountering them, Harker was like, just imagine a woman writing on this table, and she might have had her little pen and she wrote her little notes, and like I did get the whole like, yes, if a woman had sat here, then it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were like three babes who were like, do me, Harker, do me, which, you know, same. I would have done Harker, I guess. I don't know
Until
what it
Dracula
looks like,
shows
but
up, and then it's just like, no, he's mine.
I know. We'll get to that.
We'll get to
Very
it.
campy. Which leads us to our third and final theme, the twilight of the Victorian era. So by the late 1890s, Great Britain was entering a period of transition. Modern inventions and ideas were spreading across Europe and the United States. Typewriters signaled a major evolution in communication and coincided with women beginning to enter the workforce. Shorthand, a method of note-taking that involves writing symbols to represent more complete thoughts, is something that Mina discusses learning. With the coming of Dracula, a sense of doom arrives with him. Dracula represents a foreign enemy coming to corrupt the pure Victorian society. With change already sweeping through the country, Dracula's presence threatens everything that the Victorians hold dear.
First question: Did either of the two of you fuck with shorthand?
No.
Did
I
you?
had a shorthand textbook. Yes.
Wow. So can you like
shorthand.
write in shorthand?
The only things that I maintained in shorthand were things that I used at the hospital. So writing certain things about drug interactions, writing certain things about patient needs, or writing like with and without. I don't, and I've had to break myself of it because no one can read my writing, but I would use an S with a line over it for without and a C with a line over it for with. Which all comes from that kind of shorthand. The W/ is like a wildly inefficient way of writing. I don't know why people use it or don't use, or use it. It's easier to use other sort of pen strokes. And that was the whole thing in the shorthand textbook, is that all shorthand is based on how fast you can use your pen. They aren't symbols. The whole chapter on that, these are not symbols. Like, do not assign symbolism to these things. They are all just how fast you can draw them. So if you see something that looks like an eye, it probably has nothing to do with an eye. It's just how fast it took to draw it.
Interesting. Okay, so not symbols, but instead they're shapes.
So I guess they're not symbolic, I guess is what it was trying to say. But they are of course symbols. Like everything's a fucking symbol. But yes, no, I had a shorthand textbook. I did not end up using it, but thank God. But so it was a delight being like, what I'm reading right now is written in shorthand, even though it is written plain English for us to enjoy.
I love that. I love this theme. I love the way that Tyler put this. I just Dracula as an Orientalist text cannot be overstated. That is what it is. It is like so much, especially in this earlier section, as Jonathan goes to Transylvania and is in the British idea of the Orient, because it's Eastern and far away, and versus Dracula bringing that. And again, the world's biggest air quotes here, dangerous Orient back with him is just like, that is what it is. That is what Dracula is. And you can see it all throughout as you are like paying attention to like the details. And I love the way that you put this.
Well, good.
Well, there was some of that in Camilla.
Yes, there was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That happened to me, by the way. Get used to me making that same puzzled expression and same tonal thing, because there were several times through this that I was like, didn't we do this already?
Yeah. Like, it's again, Dracula and Carmilla are so similar in the funniest way possible, because they are like deeply different except for all of the ways that they're the same.
I do appreciate that this wonderful written novel from the 19th century is dealing with the idea that somebody coming from a foreign land into, sophisticated London is the worst thing in the world. And it's just nice to know that some things just never change.
I know, right? Like, that's why I really love this novel, because unfortunately it's timeless.
It is timeless. It is just timeless. God, that they even show up on a ship that is essentially just sailing into shore. Like a unseaworthy vessel is what brings this terror to it. That is currently the rhetoric that is happening in parts of Britain against foreign persons. Just wild. Well, that's not the only thing that's wild. What's also wild is that every time we talk about media on this podcast, we consider it under one of two questions. And the real wild part here is that I will be asking a question that feels just the most performative it has ever felt. Is Dracula horror? Does Dracula want to drink your blood for some fiendish enterprise, or does he have an iron deficiency? Somewhere in this question lies the answer to the much bigger and necessary question we have for the Fear Coded podcast. Is Bram Stoker's Dracula horror?
Yeah.
Again, this is always
great podcast.
This is either a really whenever we do this question, it's either a very interesting conversation of the nature of genre or the most performative. Like, yes, we have to answer this question. It is a yes. It's obviously horror. We'll simply check this box and move on.
Well, before we move on, I do want to say I was maybe surprised at how abjectly horrifying some of the first sequences really were. I mean, wolf attack got my hackles up. The caressing of the skin titillated me, but also was a little scary. The lizard walking, I have heard you both talk about, and I sort of laughed because we're friends, but reading it in the book as Harker's recollection did actually work for me significantly as a scary thing. Later, the sleepwalk, that was just terrifying from pretty much start to finish. It gave me big Carmilla vibes as well from some of the most terrifying parts of that book. I found this to be a really exciting and thrilling and horrifying read. I was very impressed.
Yeah. One of my favorite things in the early years of Dracula Daily, not so much anymore, but like in the first 2 years, there were a bunch of people being like, wow, this is actually horrifying. This is a scary book. I didn't expect Dracula to be a scary book. And I think that that's really fun, and I've always appreciated that kind of perspective.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, like, you kind of think about it like, oh, well, it's so old. Like, it's 200 years old.
Yeah.
Like, how scary can it really be? It still absolutely withstands the test of time because, like, I've talked about this before, like, with some old texts, like Beowulf, for instance. Like, the horrors that are depicted are so shockingly visual that they feel cinematic in a time when film didn't exist. And so, like, some of the scenes that are described here, like Dracula crawling down the wall, Lucy having this sleepwalking, or like the wolf bursting its head through the window into her room.
On the second floor.
Yeah, on the second floor. It's truly, like, very, very scary stuff. And, like, again, it's another reason why, like, so many people tried to make movies out of Dracula not long after they were able to make movies out of Dracula, like as soon as they got the opportunity, because it's such a good overall, very thrilling horror story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But listen,
but I even think the tension that's built in certain ways in this is just so well done, because I think it's things that maybe even on a second read through I would probably breeze past a little bit more, but all of the superstition for Harker in the beginning is so good at being like, oh, there's something fucked up that's about to happen to this man. That's why people keep like crossing themselves and like pointing at you with two fingers. And you're like, well, I'm a Anglican, so I don't believe in the cross. Like, okay, well, good fucking luck, you Londoner solicitor.
Real estate agent.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking half of the property brothers up in this shit, about to get his blood drained.
Scary, sure, whatever. That's simply not enough here on Fear Coded Podcast. We must go deeper than asking whether Dracula is horror. On Fear Coded, we must ask ourselves, is it queer?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I gotta say that, like, I went on to some Reddit. I did do some Reddit diving on this, because I wasn't really worried about the book being spoiled to me. The second half of the book being spoiled for me. I do know what happens in Dracula. Well, I guess I don't. So I am excited to read the second half of it, but I don't think I got anything spoiled. But I was looking for people's interpretations of this, and there was a lot of discussion, and people were like, well, I never read anything gay in it. And then, like, immediately there's 6 or 7 people being like, you're the worst person to have in an English class, because you're like just obstinately not willing to acknowledge this stuff. I'm going to say that at the least, for a novel written in 1897, there are at least like philosophical musings about the nature of gender and the dynamics of relationships that is just fucking on the page. It is just some shit like, why shouldn't a woman be able to marry 100 different men? Like, great fucking question, girl. Do it. But then, like, I don't know. If seeds were planted with Carmilla, they have grown into beautiful gay flowers here. There is just so much queer coding with Dracula himself, but I think the entire menagerie of characters here, there's going to be plenty for us to talk about.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I have a list.
Yeah, I mean, oh, Marilee, you got a list? I want to hear this list.
Yeah, I got a list. I got a list. This is non-exhaustive. There's more here, but just off the top of my head, immediately, you got Jonathan Harker as the tragic heroine, which is so queer for him to be a tragic heroine. Dracula and his giant crush on Jonathan. Like, again, we've said it before. We'll talk about it again. He's mine. Gay. There's the suitor's polycule. Why can't they're all not only in love with Lucy, but very easy to see how much they care about each other. They all love each other. And then you have Lucy and Mina, who are definitely girlfriends.
Oh, they're super girlfriends.
They're super girlfriend. Or this was just the only way that men knew how to write about 2 women together was to be lesbians. Because this is Carmilla all over again. Like, if that's all you know, then fine. Good job, because we're talking about it today. But, like, they're pretty gay together.
There is a quote in one of the last entries in this part where Mina is talking to Lucy and says that I love you in, like, every verb and tense of the way that is. Like, that's gay. That's how girlfriends write to each other.
That sounds like something that would have popped out of Carmilla.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. There's just so much queerness to this. And I am glad that we read Carmilla before diving into Dracula. That it feels... Actually, I feel like whether intentionally or unintentionally, so much of what we've done this year has prepared me for this novel.
Wow. I love that. And during Halloween,
And during Halloween,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
truly meant to be.
everything's happening.
Everything's happening. But yeah, like I totally agree with everything that you guys said. I do find so many things in here to be very queer. I think Dracula to me is like the biggest one, just because of like what I talked about before, where like the Victorian understanding of what could potentially be proto-queer, I feel like is manifest in Dracula. Like this idea that like, how can he be a man, but he's also kind of feminine, but he's also kind of a monster, and he's also like partly an animal? Like he's like, and he could change into different shapes. Like that is queer, baby. Like that shit. I wish I could do all of those things.
Yeah, and you know, I think Victorian literature was sort of into talking about disease, right? This was sort of I guess I have read some Dickens. Dickens is Victorian too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know he wrote about disease. Oh, just fucking disease.
Yeah, tuberculosis as disease was like way right here.
Yeah, I do think that there are some reads of disease that lend themselves to a queer reading. And I think what's really interesting is that, to me, I'm sort of backed into this. I know Dracula is queer because of society. And so now I'm going back to the original text and I'm ready to go for that. And I can see the sort of disease metaphor of the story, because Victorians were obsessed. They love disease. I mean, they hate disease, so they love talking about it. But it's just interesting coming into this as a modern audience, because I feel like I'm driving the car the wrong way, but I'm still getting to the destination.
I love that.
And I mean, like, I think that's definitely like a big part of like the context that Stoker was writing into. So like earlier I talked about like the use of the word like degenerate, which I like, you should not be describing things as degenerate in the 21st century, because that is like a racist dog whistle. But like to the Victorians, that is kind of what they thought about like someone like Dracula. He's going to fuck up the gene pool. Like he's going to make us less pure and less amazing and noble and better than those nasty old Europeans. And I think that to them, that is peak terror. But as like a queer reader today, I'm just like, fuck yeah. Like like these puritanical Victorians that are over here, like can't let Lucy marry as many men as she wants, and all the men are into the idea.
They really are. They're like best friends.
Yeah,
they
they're
all
besties.
Want to hang out. Everyone gives her blood. Just everyone who's ever met her has given her blood.
Yep. And then like in the second half of the novel, we're really going to see the found family aspect of it all coming together, which of course we talk about. That means queer. So this is queer. 6 Ways to Sunday, baby.
Yeah, it's pretty gay. It's a pretty gay book. Well, then I think it's time for us to jump in to the plot beat by beat of the first half of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel Bram Stoker. This is so fucking confusing too. I fucking hate this shit. Fucking everything's called Bram Stoker's Dracula. So if I try to like just say Bram Stoker, the author of the novel Dracula. Anyway, let's jump into it. We begin with Jonathan Harker's journal. Harker is on his first professional journey as an English solicitor to Transylvania, where he hopes to complete a real estate deal with the mysterious Count Dracula. On his journey, the local Transylvanians express anxiety over topics that Harker dismisses as folklore, such as werewolves and vampires. Harker is eventually transported to Dracula's castle, although strange elements like blue flames and howling wolves unnerve him. Count Dracula is a welcoming host, but his physicality continues to unnerve Harker. Dracula's body is pale, but his lips are blood red, and Harker notes the Count's sharp teeth. After a few days and a successful real estate deal, Dracula visits Harker while he shaves. Harker cuts himself, and Dracula goes to lunge for Harker's neck, but draws back when he sees Harker wearing a crucifix given to him by a Transylvanian villager. Dracula throws away the shaving mirror, and soon after, Harker discovers that Dracula has imprisoned him in the castle.
Dun dun dun.
Okay, so much here at the very start, but first and foremost, I was like, what the fuck is a solicitor again? I truly I love the English. I love that they have words for things, and they did invent the language. I do remember. But I truly was like, what's the deal here? What's your job? Why do you have to go? Couldn't this meeting have been an email, Jonathan Harker?
It would be today, but alas, emails were not yet invented.
Damn.
Oh, if only.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really so much happening in here with like first of all, like there's the Transylvanian villagers who I think are meant to be like Romani people, and there's the exoticization, the Orientalism of it all.
Yeah.
That's happening in here, and then that's kind of Harker's downfall. Like that's what keeps him from taking their warning seriously. And David, you did such a wonderful job describing how they react to Harker and how that's a great foreshadowing by Stoker that Harker's going to go through some shit. But it's also that really like satisfying irony that like if he had only listened to the actual like indigenous native people of the region, maybe he wouldn't have gotten so thoroughly fucked over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm going to talk about Dracula Daily a lot. And I'm going to talk about Tumblr a lot because the way that they've embraced Dracula Daily, it's like a season over there. It's great. Like around May 3rd, people will start like it's Dracula Daily time, and they'll make paprika hemdal, like chicken, which is the dish that he likes so much that he gets the recipe for Mina. It is a big thing, and everybody over there loves our friend Jonathan. And the way that they react to Jonathan in particular is so amazing to me as a longtime appreciator of Dracula, and the way that no adaptation gets him right. They all think that he's so lovely, and like the reaction there is that he is an earnest young man. When his email comes, it's like everybody gets so excited because, of course, an email from our friend Jonathan. And the fact that in Dracula Daily, you kind of slow down. Like this first section here that we talk about, barely any part of the book. But for the first few days, we are just hearing from Jonathan a little bit of a chunk at a time, like spread out over a couple of days. And so you get to really like sit in these moments a little bit more than you would if you're reading the whole book. So I just think that it's really wonderful. There's a line that people talk about a lot from this section, where the innkeeper, right before he goes on the coach to like go, stops Jonathan and loops a crucifix around his neck and says, "For your mother's sake." And I think that's one of the most beautiful lines in the book, and a lot of people on Tumblr agree. And like he accepts this thing that he doesn't believe in, but takes it because this woman who is kind says, "For your mother," you know. And I think that that's really great.
I love that.
I do, like you, Marilee, appreciate the travelogue of it all. I love how early in this novel you could be like, honestly, I wonder how Marilee will feel about this because you're a big fan of this series. It was giving a little early Poirot novel.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, Poirot does this shit a lot too, where he's like, this is what I was eating. I love when someone tells me what they're eating.
Love it.
I love
people make fun of the Instagram posts where people take up their food. I love that shit because I like to eat.
Yeah.
And if it looks pretty, I want to know about it, you know? And that's what he's doing. He gets the recipe for Mina, lots of other stuff. I just think it's so great.
Well, you know who else thinks that Jonathan's food is delicious? Dracula, who thinks that Jonathan is delicious.
He does. He truly does. I wonder if all of the paprika that Jonathan ate makes Dracula a little bit. I wonder if that changes his blood. I'm genuinely curious if there was supposed to be something to that, because they go out of their way to be like, no, this guy's white. He can't handle spices. Like, he is the biggest Londoner ever.
Okay, this is another big conversation that happened on Tumblr because people made fun of him for his intolerance to paprika, but there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of discourse about the paprika of it all, because maybe it's just kind of a joke that he can't handle it. But then on the other hand, if you really think about it, did you know that sweet peppers weren't invented till the 1920s? So the paprika that people would have been eating is actually much, much spicier there in that place than it would be today. Like, we think paprika is nothing, but it would be much
There-
hotter because these people would be like making it on their own using spicier peppers. And then for a third other layer, the fact is that paprika does actually give people indigestion quite frequently, which is why a lot of the time dishes that are made very and seasoned heavily with paprika are served with sour cream that can help cut that.
Mhm.
I love sour cream.
Not a fan. Do like paprika though. Anyway,
Uh,
sorry I know so much about paprika and Tumblr asides. I'm gonna stop talking.
well, let's talk about the blood and the shaving. Because we have, it's been a few days. Harker is trying to like he's a little creeped out, but he's mostly like the Count is a very nice host, so I feel okay here. And there's books, and I love books. So he's shaving, cuts himself. There's blood. Dracula swoops in, and then is repelled by the crucifix. But the idea that Dracula is about to pursue this man that we have spent time with, this feels gay. Like, doesn't this scene feel gay?
Yeah.
It feels gay, and it feels like a moment of a loss of control of Dracula. So it almost speaks to that he is aware of his monstrous nature and has some level of control over it. Whether that control is like a cat pawing at its prey before eventually sinking its teeth into it, or whether that control is conscious and he means to, I don't know, either delay or eventually let Harker go. We won't know because of what happens, but I do think that how that read to me is a moment of that, the lust for blood overtaking Dracula's self-control, however that manifested, and then him lunging at Harker, and the sort of resolution of that was that like Harker was able to like close or hold his hand over the wound, and that sort of created a barrier for Dracula to then regain his composure. Because I genuinely thought Harker was just going to die. That was it. That was it for our hero. Which then would have been like, how are you writing this journal? There were several points of time that I got very anxious about something happening, and I was like, oh, right. Something can't happen because this is literally being written about after the fact.
I love that.
It happened a lot, though. It happened a lot. I don't know if it happened for either of you. You've also both read it many, many times. A lot of times I was like, oh no, Lucy's about to die. No, David, like this is Lucy's writing. She cannot be dead.
Oh my gosh.
I'm totally with you on this whole. I love this idea that Dracula can't control himself, and I think that's like, if we look at it as like a queer reader today, like how can we kind of relate to that? I mean, certainly like we have experienced like having to mask and trying to pretend to be like straight or not interested in someone of the same sex, or just interested in someone period, because oh no, they can't know
Right.
that I'm gay, they can't know
Right.
that I'm queer. And so like that feels again relevant to today, and I think it speaks again to like how good the novel is at being timeless, and that we can find that relationship like something that we could connect with and empathize with Dracula in that moment. So Dracula psychologically tortures the imprisoned Harker, who bears witness one night to something ghastly. Dracula climbs down his castle wall, lizard-like. The next night, Harker is met by 3 vampire women who attempt to seduce him. Dracula, however, is offended that they would take his boy toy, and so tells them that they can have Harker when he is through with him. Harker experiences further horrors over days and weeks. Eventually, he discovers Dracula in a coffin of dirt, surrounded by other similar coffins. Harker attempts to kill Dracula with a shovel, but the blow glances off the vampire's head. Harker then resolves to steal some of Dracula's gold, descend down the castle walls, and attempt to escape. We will not learn of Harker's fate for a long time.
So you know how I said that Tumblr has like mini holidays around Dracula Daily? Lizard Fashion Day is one of them, and people love when Dracula crawls down the wall in a lizard fashion.
Do people dress up in lizard fashion?
No, but there have been lots of really funny like things edited with like lizards in like on catwalks in like very fancy clothes, because we all love that lizard fashion.
Who doesn't?
The first time I read The Lizard like down the wall, I was like, oh, this is just a literary, he's just trying to evoke some image, but like I know that Dracula is a bat. Like Dracula can fly. Like why is Dracula crawling on the walls like a lizard? And why not a spider? But then again, coming to this is a modern audience, there are other ways that I would describe climbing laterally on a wall. And I could totally see why Stoker used this. And when he used it multiple times, that's when I learned that we weren't just doing this one time. This is truly how Stoker wanted us to interpret this. But this whole climax with Harker is so good because we're just constantly amping up. Psychological torture was the right way to say this, Tyler, because the sequence of him being like, "Oh no, you can leave. Like you can leave the castle. Here, I'll go unlock the door for you." And then there just being like a wolf there and being like, "Well, fuck, I can't get eaten by a wolf, so I guess I'll stay here in your fucking castle." Just a wild, wild state of affairs from, a sociopathic immortal person.
Absolutely.
Right.
Vampire thing.
In this section, they have a little bit of a thing where Dracula has like stolen Jonathan's clothes. And so Jonathan sees him crawling out in his lizard fashion in Jonathan's travel gear. And I just think that that's so sinister, and I love that because like not only Jonathan can't leave without like his traveling coat and all of that kind of stuff, but also there are going to be reports of a man wearing Jonathan's clothes, I don't know, stealing babies or something, and Jonathan could potentially get blamed for that if anybody comes looking. And what a twisted mind. I love it.
It's also so intimate to specifically like steal Harker's clothes.
Yes.
Like and then crawling down the wall in them, like it makes like Harker, you can imagine Harker being like terrified, and the average Victorian being terrified as well, because like to be lizard-like is to be primordial. It's to devolve so much that you've returned to a reptilian self. And if you are made in God's image, then it is also an affront to God for you to be lizard-like as well. So it works on so many levels, and it's so horrific. And I also love that call out, Marilee, because I'm sure like, thankfully we end up having like newspaper clippings and stuff like that to help break up the monotony of diary entries. And one could easily imagine there being a clipping that's describing someone in English dress going around stealing babies, because I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Dracula is doing. He's stealing babies. He's sicking wolves on their mothers who come crying out for them and for their babies to be returned to them. Like, it's so evil and so good. But you know what else is evil and so good? Let's talk about the ladies.
Yeah.
The ladies.
Vampire lesbians, here we are.
I am so in love with our little like Brides of Dracula situation that we've got going on here. I love that it also is like showing that Harker is a human who is susceptible to temptation. I also think like Dracula's dramatic entry at the end of it is such an interesting turn, because then it also is implying some sort of unnatural relationship between himself and then these three women. So again, it's kind of like what could be the most obvious like horrifying thing to a Victorian, and it's like, well, now let's mock the sanctity of marriage, and there should be one man and one woman. And so like and then they're very sexual women, and they're trying to pervert Harker and trying to get at him. And it's just like, God, it's so good. It's just so good.
Yeah, I love them existing. I could have used a little bit more of them. I wanted to know more about what they looked like. Since I got every single thing that went into this man's body earlier in the novel. I could have used a little description of these women. I was a little surprised at how little there were about them, because I knew that they were a focal point of the Harker part of the story. So I was just a little surprised about it. Even the bag, which I assume is a dead or possibly still alive baby, that Dracula throws to them to get them off of Harker so that, Dracula could be like, "He's mine." The boy is mine, but with Dracula. Copyright David. I just was like, oh, this section where I am like at the edge of my seat, I actually would like a little bit more book here, please.
Yeah, I genuinely do think the brides aren't used enough, and I would love to know more about them.
I think I like the amount of bride that we have, but I do agree that I would have liked more description. It feels like an eternity when Harker is writing about it at the same time, though, because of what he is going through, and you're going through his internal thoughts as well. It's just like, oh my god, I can't be doing this. I can't. But they're so hot though. And I like that. I kind of like imagine what that means that they look like, and I think that also, like, when you see adaptations of this scene, the women are depicted so differently, but like the unifying factor is like they're hot and they want to bang Harker.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm totally. And you're right. This is where I guess the style choice to do this as an epistolary does present a challenge, because you don't write things. Nobody write. Well, some people do write in their journals very, very, very decorative descriptions about situations, but like you're practicing journaling as a form of novel writing. Like this is just not how Harker keeps his diary.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating sequence here. Lots of stuff to go on. Harker's exploration of the castle and his like death-defying trips into Dracula's room, that is all great. A lot of time being anxious about locked doors. I don't know what to tell you about that. I unlocked every door in the apartment after reading this, just because I have so much anxiety now about running into a door that won't open. Yeah, I don't know, just great. And then his final like flee, and just being like, if I fall to my death because this castle is built on a giant hill where I cannot possibly escape, then at least God will have me. I was like, my God, dude, this is so intense.
Yeah.
It's so warranted though.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel at all like any of the terror has been minimized. Like this is truly like the nightmare. This is hell. This is an evil creature has imprisoned this nice young man, Jonathan. And it's great. But it's also campy too, like to us, because like of all, like this, I feel like this is the most like untouched scene whenever it's been adapted. Like by and large, the stuff that happens in this section of Harker of the novel with Harker is transplanted into film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the case because there's so many shocking images in it. The terror is so real. It feels so vivid. I think that is a benefit of the epistolary format in that we do experience the first person expression of emotion from the person. And it just, it truly does feel terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Harker has to risk his life and we don't hear from him for a long time, I can easily imagine like being a Victorian reading this at home and just being like, oh dear, I certainly hope Mr. Harker will be fine.
Now go and fetch me some warm water for my whooping cough. Draw the blinds.
You know, I had whooping cough.
No.
Did you really? You had pertussis as a child?
Yeah, when I was 14 years old, I got it.
Oh my God. As a adolescent. That's dangerous.
Yeah. It was not fun. No,
that's the sort of thing you really should have as a child.
Or you know, you could take
a vaccinated.
Vaccine
so
about it.
Never.
Yeah.
Late in life pertussis is really scary, Tyler. I'm glad you're alive.
Yeah.
I basically skipped that entire year of school.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah. It's very serious.
It's okay. I didn't have to repeat it. I basically got to skip 8th grade.
Wow. That was the worst grade.
8th grade sucks. No one should do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think the solution of getting whooping cough is the better idea.
Yeah, don't do that either.
No.
But you know, there are even worse things you could do, like go to England.
Yeah, horrid. So anyway, here we are now in England, where Mina Murray, Jonathan Harker's fiance, exchanges letters with her best friend, her girlfriend, Lucy Westenra. Mina shares her fondness for Harker and how she hopes to be a helpful wife by typing up shorthand and typewriting. Mina is careful to say, however, that such skills do not make her a new woman. What a bad thing to be. But she loves her dear sweet Lucy, that angel in that house. Lucy talks about how she has several marriage proposals and how she loves each man, but she simply must choose, and it's so difficult. But Lucy eventually settles on her fiance of Arthur Holmwood, a son of a lord. Dr. John Seward, one of Lucy's former suitors, bears no ill will towards anyone, but is still somewhat heartbroken by Lucy's choice. To distract himself, Seward records a journal of his experiences with a patient in his mental hospital named Renfield. Renfield traps and consumes living creatures, starting with flies, before moving on to larger prey.
This is where I was like, Renfield, I know that name. There he is. Here he is.
Hey, they made a movie of that guy.
Yeah.
With the guy who ends up playing Jonathan Harker in Nosferatu. Interesting.
Not Jonathan Harker. He has a different name, but yes, he is Jonathan Harker.
Yeah, he's basically Jonathan Harker. But anyway, so Mina, who is a wonderful character and very complex, and probably my favorite character in the novel.
Oh, she's great.
And then Lucy, who is also equally complex, but she is perfect. She is Elle Woods in Legally Blonde. Like, she is just, everyone loves her. Everyone wants to be her.
Mm-hmm.
She's blonde. She's beautiful. She's got like 50 different men trying to pursue her work. And the best thing about it, though, is like she's genuinely like a really lovely person. Like, she would be like everyone's best friend. She is truly like this lovely creature, and she therefore is like this excellent representation of the angel in the house. This character who is meant to be a perfect ideal Victorian woman.
You know that the meme, like a perfect cinnamon roll too sweet for this world? That's her. That's Lucy Westenra.
Mm-hmm. That really is Lucy.
I mean, she did endear me with this whole, here are the men I want, like, two princes stand before me. Like, this was the fucking spin doctors of the 19th century. And yet she was like, I wish I could just marry them.
Yeah.
All. I was
like the
wow.
fact that she had to take breaks in between like writing the letter, because every time she got to a point where she had to reject this guy who she does care about, but it's not the one that she loves, she like had to stop and cry because she hurt this guy's feelings. You really feel for her as this beautiful, sweet creature.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And then Mina is equally like very sweet. She's very kind. But I think a big difference is also that she's like very academically smart in a way that Lucy, we never really get a chance to learn about. And so when Mina is talking about like, oh, well, I'm going to do these new things that are available to women, like learning shorthand, learning how to type on a typewriter. I'm going to learn those things, but I'm not some fancy new woman. I'm not a modern gal. I am still a devout betrothed to and future wife to Jonathan. And so any of this new stuff that I learn, I'm gonna just use it in service to him.
Yeah.
And I think and something that I kind of want to drop in here, and I think is gonna be like an important thing to remember, is that Mina is taking one thing and taking this other thing that both seem polar opposites of each other. Modern thinking and being a good wife, a good Victorian wife. And she's putting them together. And these are, again, contradictory features or opinions or practices or whatever, parts of her identity now. And I think that's interesting when you compare it to Dracula, who is also a composition of contradictory elements. And as the novel progresses and we get to learn more about Mina, because Lucy really is the star in the first half of the novel, Mina really is kind of that girl. Like, she is able to do a lot of very interesting, complicated things that other women really couldn't do, but she can. And Dracula is the same way with like, I'm human, I'm monster, I'm manly, I'm feminine. And so like kind of keep those two things in mind as we progress through the story.
I love that.
But then of course we have Dr. John Seward. Who, or Seward. I also like him being called Seward.
I love him. I love him so much. Because he, you know what? This is a queer hero. Even though, yeah, he's apparently in love with Mina or Lucy. I mean, everyone is. Me too. Like, loving Lucy is the gayest thing you can do. This man,
it's like a Ned O'Toole in that way, right?
Yeah, it's just like oh my god, a Ned O'Toole should play Lucy in some adaptation. Back in the 80s. Nothing wrong with a Ned O'Toole today. I just think Lucy probably does demand a younger actor performance. I'm gonna say I loved every time Seward took the reins of the narrative. I was so seated for it. partially because, I wanted to be a doctor when I was a child. I love him talking about his experiences with Renfield. I love his sort of like unabashed narcissism about his own abilities. Like later in the novel, he'll be like, yes, Renfield came after me with a knife, but I diffused him easily because, I fucking own an asylum. Like, just, you catty motherfucker. I loved him so much. So getting him introduced here was a lot of fun. And I just want you all both to know, anytime C-Word is the direct narrator, I am very, very happy.
Okay, can we talk about his introduction for a second? Because it is one of the funniest parts of the novel to me. It's
really
so
is,
great.
yeah.
Because Lucy tells Mina about this guy. It's just, oh, I met him. He is so perfect for you. If you didn't already have Jonathan, he's got a huge lunatic asylum all his own. And that's the first thing she says about him. It's hysterical.
Yeah, just wild stuff. I don't know if it was because of the modern eye to all this, the idea of the nature of lunacy and a lunatic asylum, so bygone words. But then I thought like, oh, are we using this on purpose? Because there's very often a moon thing. And the werewolf and the vampire is very close together here, in a way that I would not know until a more modern novelization of like Twilight. Like, there's just so much vampire and werewolf together that I thought there was going to be a little bit more to the nature of lunacy and the moon. And there truly wasn't. This is just the way we referred to mental conditions in this era.
Really? Right. What a great comparison there. Because that's the thing about Dracula is it's older than the idea of a werewolf-vampire rivalry. And so these are two supernatural forces that are all the same thing.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, at one point in time, Dracula's hands were described as being
hairy. He's got hairy palms because he masturbates too much,
palms.
obviously.
Well, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Who am I to throw rocks at that glass house? But how I read that was not the best.
No, obviously,
he's
but
like wolfish, and doesn't he have a beard?
He has a very thick white mustache.
Oh, okay, that's right. He was wearing a beard when he pretended to be the
driver.
Cart
yeah.
driver. Yes. That's what I was like. Wait, Dracula has a beard? That feels wrong.
Also really campy though. Like also really campy.
putting on costume wigs and facial hair. Yes, absolutely.
Oh my god. We didn't even talk about the campiest thing that he does while Jonathan is in his castle, which is of course pretending to be his own servants and like running around doing everything to make sure that Jonathan doesn't know that he's alone in the castle with Dracula. It's so funny.
Yeah.
There's a version of this novel, it's only about 20 pages, but it's just about Dracula having to like do a Benny Hill routine, trying to make sure everything in the castle is going off perfectly.
Wow.
I would love to read that.
You just sealed the end of episode music with Benny Hill music right there. That just
great.
written in your own blood.
Well, first of all, how dare you? But second of all, Mina and Lucy take a trip to Whitby, which is a town on the English coast. There they meet a Mr. Swales, who tells them about the legends of the area, which, of course, the ladies scoff at. Eventually, they see a ship on the horizon, and Mr. Swales portends that death approaches. We then switch to newspaper clippings describing the aforementioned ship, called the Demeter. The ship ran aground, with the corpse of the captain tied to the wheel, clutching a crucifix. Metal as hell, by the way. Like, that is so fucking cool. The rest of the crew are missing, aside from a strange dog or wolf that escaped from the ship's hold. The captain's log describes the grisly fate of the ship's crew, who were all killed by Count Dracula. In the days following the ship's arrival, Mr. Swales dies, and Lucy begins to exhibit strange behavior.
All right, I gotta tell you, didn't love Mr. Swales.
I find the Mr. Swales stuff to not be that essential to the novel.
I loved the captain's log of it all. That was incredible because I was like, oh my god, we're back on the fucking Oberdin, and I'm solving unknown crewman murders as they all like one by one get yeeted off the ship. Just truly incredibly. I had no idea this was in here. I knew Dracula made it to London. That is all I knew. I did not know the manner of transport. And I certainly didn't know that he was like, I will eat everyone as we take this little trip. I will just go up to the buffet and nom 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 nom. I loved that.
this unknown seaman was devoured by
Dracula.
Count Dracula.
An unknown vampire.
An unknown vampire. There's so many out there. It's hard to tell.
So I haven't seen it, but there was a horror movie a couple years back called The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which was a Dracula adaptation specifically about this ship voyage, which again, I need to watch. I'm very interested in it. I think it wasn't very good, but of course that's no deterrent to me.
And that's the other thing, as I said, I didn't really know about the ship, but I do know the name Demeter, and I do know that it comes from this because it is parodied, I guess is the wrong term. It is a reference that people will use as a shorthand of like a doomed voyage. I just didn't even know that Dracula was on it. I just know that it was a doomed voyage that came from this novel. It is so wild, the things that have longevity from this original text, and that is one of them.
Yeah.
But Mr. Swales, love you dearly. This is also where I had to listen to the audiobook a lot because of other conflict that was going on in my life that I needed to extra focus on the book. And God bless an audiobook narrator who puts an accent on, but I was like, maybe just speak. I don't need this. Just regular language would be fine.
My audiobook also had an accent for that sequence.
Oh, they all do.
And
then
was
they were
just like yeah, no, I would listen to the audiobook at 1.2 speed because I was just like, girl, I've already read this book like 2.5 times already. I can't do this again. But yeah, my audiobook guy, he was speaking with a bad Russian accent very quickly. But I think, like, for instance, Nosferatu has a really good interpretation of this scene and how that plays out. Obviously, Nosferatu was different because that had copyright issues going on with the Stoker estate. And so when the ship crashes, instead of, like, Dracula emerging as a wolf, instead, Count Orlok's ship of plague, which is just full of rats, crashes into the fucking city, and then it's just rats everywhere. All over the city. And I think that works really, really well for the story that was telling. But I think visually, I can't divorce those two moments in my mind. Like, just, I love an apocalyptic voyage for a ship, as if we didn't just spend a whole month talking about those.
It was a great month, so.
I'm actually obsessed now. I'm having like a weird mini hyperfixation moment on like maritime voyages from like the 1800s because of Return of the Obra Dinn and all of Lost at September. I'm just so like, I'm really into boats now, guys.
You and me in middle school would be best friends right now.
This is one of those times that I was like, oh, was this intentional on Marilee and Tyler's part that we would follow Lost at September with the first half of this novel, which involved a significant portion of a story about people at sea?
I'm not
and
saying
being
that.
doomed.
Listen, brilliant.
The thing is that I just love the Demeter section of this so much. And this is actually another thing that's really interesting about doing Dracula daily instead of reading the book itself, because you get the Demeter section as it's happening, as opposed to in the book where you just see the ship crashing and then you get all of the information afterwards. It's extremely different experiences.
Can I also just add to that real quick? The method that we learn about the Demeter's tale and fate is through a newspaper article, and this journalist is so gay just because he is so confident in his ability and he is so good at being horribly judgmental of the people that he talks to.
Oh, he's a bitchy gay and I love him.
Most realistic Brit in the book, truly and honestly. Loved it. Incredible. No notes for him. I forgot his name, sadly, but good job, little reporter,
little gay journalist.
Later when he goes to the zoo, which I know we're not going to do because it's just not necessary for the discussion. But that was the most incredible because he was like, "Well, I used my status as a reporter to like bend the rules," and I was like, "As a what now?" You were reporting on a wolf who went missing. Calm down.
This is a special interest story.
God, Victoria,
this is behind like Queen Victoria has conquered another continent.
She was like, you must write something. I need 60 pages of stories and no more direction. This is the beginning of Lucy's stuff too. So I this was also made me really happy because this is where I felt like, oh, I get it now. I get what we're about to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So like she's starting to sleepwalk, she's starting to appear a bit pale and distant, and Mina notes that. And of course she would, because they're girlfriends, they're lovers. They are true. They give off such sapphic vibes.
They're in love with
and
each
they're just
other.
so they are in love with each other, and they just are so intimate with one another. It's that I find that to be like a common denominator with the queer representation of this novel, is just like people of the same sex being intimate with each other.
Yeah. Well, and how more intimate can you be than sleepwalking with your girlfriend? Because that's exactly what happens next. Because over time, Lucy's behavior worsens. She sleepwalks at night and she develops 2 puncture wounds on her neck. Mina and Lucy see a dark figure with strange red eyes in a graveyard. And that night, Mina and Lucy discover a large bat fluttering against Lucy's window. Lucy's health and the health of her mother worsen, and Lucy is described as looking increasingly drained of life. After a letter from a Whitby solicitor ordering the boxes of dirt aboard the Demeter be transported to Dracula's new home of Carfax, Mina writes with good news. She has finally heard about Jonathan. He is in a hospital in Budapest where he is beset by the very Victorian condition known as brain fever. Mina prepares to leave for Budapest. Back at Seaward Sanatorium, Renfield proclaims that the master is at hand.
Dun dun dun!
I love this extended sleepwalking sequence with Lucy and Mina. It is so fucking tense. And I think the thing that I loved the most about it is that I was tense because I knew that she was getting her blood fucking drained from Dracula. And all Mina, who is my point of view for this, is like, oh no, what if someone sees her in her house clothes, which I'm sure is still like a full fucking like outfit, unlike me when I just like would be naked walking to the graveyard. Like, oh no, what if somebody sees her? Never mind that like someone's literally taking her blood. It's all this like her chastity is at risk here. I loved that. I know that was a condition of Victorianism, but today how it reads is it reads as like more tension because we're not caring about what I care about because the POV just doesn't care about it. It's really, really good.
It's so great.
I really love that call out, David, because I think it also points to a part that we haven't really touched on too much, just kind of briefly. It's the epistolary aspect of the novel. Mm-hmm. Because again, Mina doesn't know what's going on, as she just presumes like, oh no, my best friend / girlfriend is going to be seen in her house clothes. Like, it's that lack of knowledge about Dracula that is kind of their downfall so frequently.
Yeah, the characters
Dracula is this brand new thing.
Yeah, the characters in Dracula don't know that they're in Dracula. They don't know to be worried about a vampire. They're just think, oh no, I must have pierced her neck with my clothespin because I was trying to make sure that she was wrapped in a blanket because A, it's cold, but because it's September in England, but also because she's practically naked.
But the thing that makes the epistolary aspect of all of that work is that people are now writing down their experiences. Mm-hmm. People are now able to put down as fact, hey, I saw a dark figure with red eyes, and then that night there was a vampire bat or just a big bat that was flying outside the window. Do I know what that means yet? Do I know why that's significant? No. Will I eventually? Perhaps. But only because everyone has been writing about it.
Do we think that Dracula counts as a found footage narrative?
Yeah, totally.
I love that.
I think it does. Because it is about people's experiences that they are writing about in the like post aspect of it all. Oh, well then I guess no, it wouldn't really count as found footage.
No.
Because it would have to be happening at that time. And it's like in that exact moment.
It's subject to too much subjective analysis, and found footage, the benefit of it is the objective nature of it. I don't think you can do found footage without a camera.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I think this is as close as you could get, though, for the time.
Like, pre-camera found footage is just a bunch of people writing stuff and then it being collected together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I mean, like, I love also that, like, Lucy's health is worsening and her physical appearance is deteriorating as a result of
Mhm.
that, because it's showing the manifestation of Dracula's influence. So, like I talked about at the start with the themes, if Dracula is able to damage and eventually kill the angel of the house, he can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's part of why he's so effective, is because until people write down what he can do, he really can do anything.
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
another aspect of this that's so interesting is like the first time that Mina writes about Lucy, she's saying that she's feeling a lot better from like her anemia or whatever it was that but she had been sick. And so her like sickness here just initially reads as like she has fallen ill with that same thing again. And people don't realize it's more serious until it's almost too late, which I
Mhm.
think is really
I
fun.
think this is the first of, and we'll do it a lot with Lucy. C-word will do it. Mina will do it. Everyone's going to do it. Anyone who talks about Lucy will do it. It's like, yes, 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 no. Like she's better, she's better, she's better. And then, oh no, she's worse. But it always worked at increasing the tension of the story being told.
Absolutely.
So no matter how many times Lucy pulled away that football, I kept running to it every time. And so good job, Stoker, for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, poor Mina has to leave because she hears from her beloved Jonathan. And with Mina leaving, there goes Lucy's protection for the time being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So Mina writes from Budapest with news that she and Jonathan have married. He has no memory of his time with Dracula, but is certain that his diary holds the answers. However, he is so fearful of the truth that he makes Mina vow to never read the diary unless some solemn duty requires her to do so. Mina agrees and seals the diary with wax. Meanwhile, Lucy begins to write her own diary. She writes about how her health improves and then suddenly declines, but also of the strange dreams she experiences. Arthur Holmwood, Lucy's final choice for fiance, writes Dr. Seward anxious about Lucy's declining health. Unfortunately, Seward cannot figure out the cause of her condition and sends a letter to his former teacher and mentor, Abraham Van Helsing, who is here now. He's a doctor. We had no idea. Van Helsing travels from Amsterdam to see Lucy, and while he also does not know the cause of her condition, he confirms that she is indeed suffering from massive blood loss.
One of the other things I really liked about the sequence, to the Benny Hill of it all, is we're playing sort of like hide the truth from Mom, because her heart is weak and any shock to her system will instantly kill her. She is a fragile little wisp of
Yeah.
I suppose.
If you say boo too loudly in another room, she will fall over and croak.
And I think talking about it now, it feels really silly, but it did work to create this sort of like air of added frustration around everything that we're doing in the household with trying to get Lucy the help that she needs. Like, oh, we got to sneak Dr. Van Helsing in. Like, if we just tell your mother that we're bringing Dr. Van Helsing in, she's just gonna die. She will instantly die.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's kind of interesting too that like we are bringing Van Helsing into the story now. So he is Seward's mentor, and he is someone that is more wise to the strange goings on of the world. He is this incredibly genius man. I think it's kind of interesting that he is not English.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's from Amsterdam, and so that's what, the Netherlands?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's from the Netherlands, and that's like Western Europe. Like that's definitely not like Transylvania, but it's getting closer.
Yeah.
It's certainly getting closer. And I think part of that is like Stoker has chosen a character that is kind of close-ish to the foreign, mysterious, far Eastern Europe, but is not totally over there. Like he's still considered like a Westerner as a result. So he is someone that knows about the supernatural, or just knows more things than Seward does, but he's not like weird. You know, he's not some Eastern European. Like he is still kind of like a Western European intelligent person. And so everyone kind of treats him far more seriously than Harker did with the people of Transylvania.
Yeah. Well, I think for a novel that concerns itself a lot with superstitions, it's really fun. I didn't know that Van Helsing was from Amsterdam, but sort of the Dutch scientific advancements that happened in the 1800s would speak to a character who's a lot more scientifically grounded coming from Amsterdam, because theirs was the salon and the coffee house and meeting up with people, getting a little intoxicated, and then pontificating about the ways in which everything is based on some fundamental scientific principles is very Dutch in this time. And that really filled in a lot for Van Helsing for me, because again, I was expecting Hugh Jackman, and he is not Hugh Jackman.
No, very much not.
No, honestly, whenever I picture Van Helsing, unfortunately, David, I think of Sigmund Freud.
Oh, I mean, you're not, listen, I don't think you're wrong in that, especially how he is written here. He would be a predecessor of Freud in this time. But he does have a very Freud-like air to him. We're almost expecting him to be like, a cigar. I know much about this. And then do like, that's what kept happening in the novel, is he would be described as taking this like sharp intake of breath as like a betrayal of his like surprise mechanism. And that does speak to someone who is versed in psychology. Like, that is a very psychological way of looking at this. Luckily or not, psychology didn't really exist in that way. So I do wonder if Stoker had written this novel 30 years later, would Van Helsing just have been a straight up psychiatrist?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's
sure.
wild to me.
It would make sense to think of him as a psychologist, given the fact that this lunatic asylum director studied under him directly. So they both study a version of psychology for the time period, presumably.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
and even then, like, the psychology of the time was much more based in philosophy. So if we're thinking about, like, Van Helsing is in a salon and he's talking about natural philosophy and how there is like this one scientific concept, of course that would kind of make sense that he would have that sort of air to him. And I think that's part of what makes him seem a bit mysterious but trustworthy.
Frankenstein's already been written by now, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Then I almost wonder if the reason we don't see phrenology as part of this story is that there was an effort to avoid talking about the brain because it was present in Shelley's work. Because these people would have absolutely been being like, well, their brains are probably too large or too small or whatever, because that was also a predominant way of thinking about mental health in that time period. But I wonder if, because the brain was so important to the Frankenstein story, if maybe that was why it was ignored.
David, have you read Frankenstein?
Well,
cool.
Girl.
We're going to put a pin in that and we're going to walk on by.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. To answer your question now, though, I don't think that... Well, I suppose Stoker must have been thinking about Mary Shelley, but we can't read his brain. But I feel like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is more based on kind of like nature, and
that's right.
we can create life from the earth, and then this is more like something unnatural is occurring, and
you're right.
I do think that's a good pull, though, because it does have us thinking about like the Gothic of it all. This is past the Gothic romance movement when Dracula was published, but there's still elements of that in here, and I think Van Helsing is also kind of a connection back to the study of nature and science and how those two things can work together that is present in Frankenstein. So I think actually that is like a good, interesting pull.
So while we're talking about Van Helsing, I just want to point out that the original Nosferatu, of course, was almost lost completely because it was violating the copyright for Dracula, right? In the latest Nosferatu adaptation, because Dracula is now in the public domain, they added a Van Helsing character to make it more similar to Dracula. And that was, of course, played by Willem Dafoe, who we remember from The Lighthouse, in a really very fun performance. I just wanted to shout him out because you guys are talking about how you viewed Van Helsing. I honestly kept picturing Willem Dafoe in this role because the Van Helsing that he portrayed, the not Van Helsing, was so perfectly Van Helsing. To me, that was just what made sense.
Totally. So, Dr. Seward returns to his study of Renfield, whose obsession with his master has worsened, only to be pulled away as Lucy's condition has become critical. Van Helsing returns and orders Seward to begin a blood transfusion with Homewood for Lucy. Seward stays up to watch over Lucy, and she awakens in the morning rejuvenated. Although Seward tries to stay out the next night, he falls asleep and awakens to find Lucy once again near death, with recessed gums and pointed canines. Van Helsing festoons the room with garlic flowers, and he instructs Lucy to wear a garland of them around her neck. Lucy writes of her cheery hopefulness that the flowers will certainly help her condition. Unfortunately, when the doctors return the next morning, Lucy is again near death because her mother removed the flowers from the room. Dagnabbit! Seward reports in his diary that Renfield attacked him, drawing blood. Renfield licked this blood and claimed that the blood is the life.
This
Renfield is such a campy delight. Can we just he's so fun to read.
Yes.
Like he is balls to the wall, like all in on Dracula. He's simping hard, and like the visual again, like such strong visuals in this of him like eating little flies, and then he begins to work his way up to like birds, and like he has like it almost feels like Hannibal Lecter and Clarice talking to each other at times when Renfield and Seward are talking, and Renfield's not just like raving. I really love these scenes. I love that Renfield is just going fucking nuts and then starts licking blood from what was it, a knife that he cut Seward with?
He stole a knife from the kitchen and cut him with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love Renfield. I think of the first half of this novel, Renfield may be the biggest remaining open mystery for us to continue to revisit, because his sort of, I mean, we're going to talk about it in a couple of seconds, but like his sort of next steps are the least known. And I get a stopper put in almost every other story. I could stop reading Dracula right now and feel mostly satisfied with most of the characters that have been introduced to me, except for Renfield and as a relationship to him, Seward. Like I am very invested in where these two continue to go. And I hope that they have many more lights. I think part of why I love Renfield is that it's written from Seward's POV.
Yeah.
As I established earlier, I love him. So but I even loved him as this administrator, caretaker, or doctor, whoever the fuck he is, being like, this whole master thing has got me bothered. I wish I could get him back on his flies. And I was just thinking like, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But like it's a little weird.
Yeah, no, especially because like what he is doing with his insects is so wild, because like he's collecting all of these flies and then he feeds the flies to spiders and then the spiders to a bird, and then he wanted to feed the bird to a cat, or like lots of little birds to cats and stuff. He never gets access to a cat. He just eats the birds instead. And just like the idea that he wants all of the life that like he's eating the chicken that's smarter than the other chickens to absorb their power, if you know what I mean. Sorry, I had to throw that the Orange is the New Black quote in there, because like there's no other way for me to like conceptualize what he is doing, because it's just insane.
Yeah, and it's true, and I like that it is his own connection to Dracula. Like it's the best thing that he can try and like materialize from this connection that he has with him. And again, like it is a very mysterious relationship between Dracula and Renfield, because Renfield, before Dracula arrives in England, is in the sanatorium eating flies. He's this zooophagus that Seward describes him to be, and that all he does is eat. That's all he wants to do, is just consume to absorb life. And I love that there is, again, like this weird connection between two people of the same sex, that Dracula is like proto-queer and Renfield is kind of obsessing with him in his own proto-queer way too.
Yeah. But sort of as a result, then Seward is obsessing about Renfield. Like there is just sort of this like through line, and in the same way that Renfield is feeding flies to spiders, Dracula is feeding Renfield to Seward. Like there's this like connective tissue between all of these people, and the the tent pole is Count Dracula.
It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And then, of course, when we go back to Lucy, and she's got garlic flowers all over her room, and it's just so funny how like this whole scene starts, where it's like Van Helsing's brought in like these really nice, like really pretty white flowers, and then he's like, "It's garlic."
No, Lucy identifies because she knows like this is a garlic flower, and she's like, "Yes, of course. My friend has this hothouse
from Harlem.
Yeah, it's growing them. I got them just for you." And it's just when the flower thing happens, and the two doctors are like, "Oh, she's gonna be so much better. We're killing the treatment plan." And they walk in, and Lucy's mother is like, "Yes, of course she is going to be so much better, but also partially because of me. I walked in and all of these gross flowers, and the window was closed. I just tossed them all out and opened it up, and now she's gonna be great." And they couldn't yell or do anything because, again, if you raise your voice at her slightly, she will fall over dead.
So,
I'm just imagining Dracula outside Lucy's window watching her mother take all those flowers out, and he's just the sicko's window meme guy.
Yes!
Yes!
Oh my god.
only as a bat, because he's a bat at this point in time.
Yeah, he's a bat.
Oh my god.
But it's just it's like from What We Do in the Shadows. It's a bat it's just got Dracula's face on it, though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Van Helsing telegrams Seward ordering him to stay the night with Lucy, but the telegram doesn't arrive in time. Instead, Lucy awakens to the sound of bat wings flapping against her window, as well as the howling of a wolf. Her mother joins her, and the two are horrified by a wolf's head bursting through Lucy's window. Lucy's mother tears off the garlic in Lucy's neck and then dies of a heart attack. She's dead. And Lucy hides the note where she describes all of this in her bodice. And the next day, doctors Van Helsing and Seward find Lucy barely alive. Cowboy and former Lucy suitor Quincy Morris is back, and he has come home to begin to transfuse his blood into Lucy. Arthur Homewood, distraught already over the death of his own Lord Father, is nearly lost to despair, but his presence brightens Lucy's demeanor. And this is where I was like, oh my god, everyone has put their blood in this woman. Van Helsing's got her blood in him. Seward's got his blood in her. Her husband, her like one-time Texan ex has done it. She's just, it's wild. It is wild to me. And this is where I was like, oh, Victorians are like obsessed with disease. So this would have been seen, like they were surprisingly good at avoiding bloodborne pathogens because they thought everyone was dirty and disgusting. And so much as like looking at another person could kill you. But like here we are like intermingling blood. This must have freaked Victorians out to all get out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I think we see that too with like the descriptions of them being like, okay, this is a very difficult procedure. You must be careful. This is a very like tricky thing that we're about to undergo. Please be careful when you're doing this. And it's like, yeah, because you're taking your blood, the thing that keeps you alive, from your own self and putting it into Lucy, who you're desperately trying to keep alive, this angel of the house, and yet it doesn't work. But I think it is also really queer that all of these men, these very significant men in Lucy's life, who all objectively, truthfully, purely love her, they're all mingling in her body.
Yeah.
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 That feels so queer to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it feels like the materialization of the found family.
Maybe the found family is the blood we put into Lucy along the way.
I don't love that. I don't love that, but yes, you're wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
No, so much about this is so wild, especially because like in the Victorian era, they didn't really know about blood types. And so a lot about what we know about blood transfusions simply isn't a thing to them. And the other aspect is they never tell Lucy what they've done. They don't tell her they have put more blood inside of her repeatedly. And that's so weird to me, the way that they think that this has to be done in secret. And then the other thing that I want to, there are two things in this section I want to call out. Number one, the next day when they're talking to Lucy and she's like briefly conscious, she tries to tear up the note where she discussed everything in like a trance state. Like she's she's basically unconscious. She like pulls the note out and starts to rip it up, and it's um Van Helsing like takes the note away from her, so like we still have it. But I just think that's so interesting, and certainly not foreshadowing about what Dracula can control his victims to do. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I want to point out is, of course, my homeboy Quincy, who is justice for Quincy. He is taken out of adaptations all the time, and he's such a wild and silly man, and I love him so much.
It's just so crazy, but I just cannot stop thinking about Bram Stoker, reading about cowboys, and being like, for some reason I find cowboys appealing. I think I'm going to put one in my novel.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
And he's going to be smoking hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, Bram Stoker, proto-queer, more like proto-bear. This guy liked his men and liked them to be men. So I get it.
Yeah. Big and bearded, too.
Yes.
Because when he was writing to Walt Whitman, that was Walt Whitman in his Gandalf era.
Yeah.
Gandalf. Most of Walt Whitman's life was his Gandalf era, but yes. That man was born with a fucking head of hair.
Oh, man.
Well, unfortunately, things just cannot get better. Renfield escapes, a common practice by now, and grows closer to his master. We also briefly hear from Mina, who reports that she has returned to England with Jonathan. Sadly, Lucy will never know, because she is dying. Van Helsing, in an attempt to try to preserve what's left of her life, lays out those garlic flowers, but Lucy pushes them away in her sleep. Seward, meanwhile, sees a giant bat fluttering at her window, awaiting the inevitable. As Lucy dies, she lustily begs to kiss Homewood on the lips, but Van Helsing insists that he only kiss her forehead. After she passes, her beauty returns to her, which again certainly will not foreshadow anything that we'll talk about next week. Don't worry about it.
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 Rip Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy. The first letter from Mina that says, a letter to Lucy, never opened by her. It made me legit emotional, you guys. Like, I don't know about you, but I genuinely cared about Lucy, and seeing these lovely words by her girlfriend to her that she never got a chance to experience, that made me really sad.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I definitely am sad when Lucy dies, and I think that is very much the intention, but I think we're also supposed to be afraid of what's coming next.
Van Helsing has made it very clear that like some shit's going on.
Yeah.
Here.
At one point, I think Seward is like, why don't we just let her go? She's like suffering so terribly. And Van Helsing is like, I'm fighting not for her life, but for her soul. And him trying to let her die human and not being able to is, I think, supposed to be very emotional for us.
And I think it definitely comes across with Van Helsing too, because I think it really, like, it starts when they find out that Lucy's mother took the flowers away, but he does sob. Like he breaks down to the point where he is legit crying. And I think it just shows like how desperately bad the situation is becoming. Because it's like what we talked about with Event Horizon, right? When the captain starts to have a breakdown, the super serious guy who's supposed to be very stoic all the time, that's when you know shit's fucked. And I think shit is thoroughly fucked here. I think it's also so interesting that we had so many descriptions of Lucy's physical appearance. She's always described as being beautiful, except when she's dying, and then she looks like a fucking corpse. Like, it really is one thing or the other with this girl.
Yeah.
And I think for us in the moment to think like, oh my goodness, her beauty is returning to her in death, it's because she is the angel in the house. Like, she's saint-like, like she can become beautiful again.
She's incorruptible.
And the fact that she's incorruptible, and yet we know the truth, and that also amplifies like the fear and the anxiety, because Dracula won. What else is he gonna do?
Yeah. Keep on winning, I hope.
Yeah. Ew.
You know, the first time we're introduced to Lucy, she is looking in her mirror, basically, and, like, describing herself. And, like, Lucy, as her appearance and also her reflection, are so important to her character. And then what is going to come for her later, her reflection of, like, this dark mirror version of her, I think is going to be so interesting for us to just talk about.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Especially as it relates to her girlfriend, Mina.
And her boyfriends, her polycule.
And her boyfriends / one husband.
Well, they never got married. It was still...
Well, did they get married?
No, they never got married. It was what that's in that first letter from Mina to Lucy. She had been, like, before she left, was talking about her, like, getting married against a fall wedding. This is, like, the September 17th. She's like, hey, we're back in England. What are your wedding plans? Because she wants to know, because she's thinking it must be coming up, right? Like, I never got my invite, but I was abroad. So, like, give me the deets, girl. And she had no idea that Lucy was so sick and that wedding will never be.
Didn't even leave her on red. Left her on unread.
Left her on undead.
Ayo. Well, on that note, how do we feel about the first half of Bram Stoker's Dracula in terms of horror or queerness after our conversation? And do we have any other final thoughts for this episode?
You know, we talked about this earlier, but I just have to continue to express how surprised I was about how horrifying this really was. Really, really firing on the horror elements. I was not surprised at how queer it was because of how gay vampires have seemingly always been. But I do think that the horror was a big shock to me, and I'm very, very delighted, if a little anxious, to read the second half of this.
Yeah, I stopped right when we were supposed to, and I have been, like, looking at my book from the library every time I open the app and be like, you want to read me. I'm like, I do, but I can't. I have to keep my mind fresh for the conversation. So that's exactly what I'm doing for as soon as I return off this podcast recording.
Oh, wow.
I love Dracula. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if you know this or not.
We are devoted.
I am excited to read something that is not Dracula for a little while, and then I will come back to
Dracula. All Dracula all the time, baby! I can't wait. I think this is going to be really fun. I loved our conversation about Dracula also. I think that we had some really fun notes. Dracula's great. I can't wait. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's queerly a buffet of queer themes.
Agreed.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Interested in our vampire-related diary entries, newspaper clippings, and more? Follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at FearCodedPod.
And if you want to support this podcast, you can join the bats in our belfry and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/FearCodedPodcast. You can show your appreciation at one of 3 levels with accompanying bonus content starting at the $3 level.
Fear Coded is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, check out the full roster of shows at glitterjaw.com.
And don't forget that on the 31st of this month, we are doing our own epistolary with a seasonal Q&A episode. That is not the correct way to use epistolary, David, but it's fine. If you would like to roleplay Asylum Administrator John Seward, you simply need to ask us your questions by emailing them in to fearcodedpod@gmail.com or to DM our podcast's Blue Sky or Instagram accounts, or you can even use that commenting function on Spotify. We will answer all questions submitted by October 24th. And join us next time as we continue Drac-tober by sinking our fangs into the second half of Bram Stoker's Dracula. But for now, we will simply say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Epistolary? More like go pistolary.